Wilson, Perez, Johnny Evans, what a header! Oh, what an absolute cracker from Harvey Barnes! Oh, there's magic in that right boot.
You're listening to Extra Time, live on LCFC Radio. Your place for all the reaction to the weekend's football.
Extra Time on LCFC Radio. We said it was all smiles last week after the game at the Hawthorns when Leicester got up and running with a 3-0 win. It's all smiles again because it's 2 wins from 2 and Leicester City are top of the Premier League after beating Burnley 4-2 here at King Power Stadium yesterday evening. I'm your host for this evening. Alongside me is Jerry Taggart in the studio. We've got Tony Cotty as well, who joins us from his home. And Jerry, we'll come to you first, as obviously you were here. You always like your Sunday afternoons, don't you, to go to the pub. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you were able to be here and watch Leicester City win.
Let's just say it was a sacrifice worth making yesterday. I thought the team was fantastic again against a really difficult Burnley team. Who are, we talked about it before the game. They're well organised, big physical team, and I thought on the whole they dealt with the threat of Burnley, really well. You were expecting Burnley to cause problems. They did, but Leicester going forward last night, wow, fantastic at times. The only thing I will pick up on is somebody at the club, puts my tweets out, and they've done a massive, mistake in the spelling on. I don't know who. I think it was Captain question mark just in the other room there that might have done that, Mr. Miller. So yeah, I think he needs to, sit down and make sure that he gets his spelling right in future. All right, Mills, nice one. How you doing, TC? Anyway,
I'm good, Tags. I've got no idea what you're on about, but I totally agree with you. I mean,
yeah.
Sunday evening and that, and you put the telly on and you're not quite sure what's going to happen. We all know it was a great result at West Brom last week, and you're thinking Burnley, they're a tough team. We know that, Tags, don't we? Where they're well organised, they're physical, strong players. They've got players that can cause you problems. And I think the best thing about the performance is the fact that, the guys went a goal down and, it never seemed to bother them. They're 3-1 up and Burnley pull a goal back and it's 3-2 and it doesn't seem to bother them. It doesn't seem to faze them. And, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about perhaps a few little defensive frailties, which understandable with the players missing at the moment. But I agree, going forward, Tag, wow, they've picked up from where they were with their good form, in that fantastic run they had sort of, leading up to Christmas last year. And going forward, they're an absolute delight to watch at the moment.
I think, as well, moving forward, you're not going to come up against a Burnley-type side in the Premier League every week. So, that's a good thing. But from set pieces, definitely teams are going to try and target Leicester. So, I think last night was a game tailor-made for Johnny Evans, who's unfortunately he's missing at the minute. But so hopefully, we'll get him back and we move Wilfred back in the midfield. And then, the height in the team goes up a bit. And, they're more equipped to deal with those dangerous set pieces. But you're not going to come up against a Burnley team week in, week out, that's for sure.
If you're listening at home, either through Twitter or Facebook, do get involved with the show this evening. Fee says, hi, Dan, Jerry and Tony. Hello, Fee. Neil says, hello, everybody. Gary says, Harvey Barnes was very good in the game yesterday. And Suvik says, Justin and Barnes are playing absolutely crazy. Just loving them at the moment. Before we go any further talking about the game, Tony, can I just confirm there'll be no barbecue-related disasters this evening on Extra Time?
Oh dear! What a night that was last week, Dan.
I've missed it.
I can confirm that down in the Essex area we've still got barbecue weather. Okay. But you'll be pleased to know that my stepson, he's gone away for a few days. I think he's gone Centre Parks or something, so he's not cooking the barbecue tonight. And I'm not trying. Do you know what was funny? He showed his future father-in-law around. He's getting a house. He's moving out, which can't come quick enough, obviously. Showed his father around the house, and he said, "Oh, you need to get a nice barbecue." And I said to him, "If you're getting a barbecue, make sure you buy a hose pipe as well, because you've got to put the fire out." It was a fun experience, and we got it on CCTV as well. So I won't share that with all the fans, all the Leicester fans around the world. as you know, I had to disappear very quickly last week.
Yeah, it was an interesting end to the quiz that we had at the end of last week, with Tony disappearing to do some firefighting duties. Thankfully, no firefighting duties were needed for Leicester City last night. I suppose they went 1-0 down at one point, but it wasn't really disaster, or it wasn't panic stations at that stage of the game.
No, I think, again, talking before the game, we always knew Leicester were going to cause Burnley a problem. It was obviously how many times Burnley were going to cause Leicester a problem. I spoke about the first contacts live on air. Burnley won the majority of the first contacts of balls that came into the box early against the Leicester City defence. Thankfully, nothing came of it. Nothing came of it apart from the 2 goals that did, but nothing more than that. But as the game went on, you could just see that once Leicester got into their stride, with the 2 full-backs and obviously the 2 wide players, just causing all kinds of havoc. And against Castagna last night, I mean, he is a class act. And I know we're 2 games in, and I shouldn't be saying it, but he is a class act, that guy. And James Justin is just learning all the time and improving all the time. And obviously he got himself on the score sheet. So, things are looking really good. And it just goes to show that, even though Brendan probably hasn't got the players in, or the amount of players in that he wants at the minute, the juggernaut is continuing to move along nicely at the minute.
I think it was those 2 fullbacks, wasn't it, Tony, that Jerry was just alluding to there, that were quite brilliant. They were brilliant at the Hawthorns last week, but the way they played, again, Brendan Rodgers must be so happy with them, particularly Castagna, and the fact that was only his 2nd game in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it. I think before the West Brom game, when we was on air together, Dan, and I was talking about, how sometimes it can take players a little while to settle into a new football club. With the different languages, different cultures, moving to a different city, making sure your wife's happy, making sure the kids are happy, whatever the circumstances are. And we don't always see players hit the ground running. But I've got to agree with Tax. I mean, this guy. He looks like he's been there for the last 10 years. That's the biggest compliment I can pay him. He's really slotted in. I originally thought he was bought to replace Chilwell at left back. Obviously, James Justin has gone to left back and has been outstanding. But Castagna at that right back position, he's got pace, he's got awareness, he's good at defending, his delivery is fantastic. And he really gives Leicester an option. And I think in the modern game, you expect your centre-half to defend. You want 2 solid defenders there. And let's be honest, when, Johnny Evans is back in the team, you've got Evans and Soyuncu. Those 2 guys, their job is to defend. But if you look at the fullbacks, those 2 fullbacks, they give you everything because they give you defensive duties. And James Justin's learning. The first goal as an example, Chris Wood pulled off him and that, and you could argue he could have been a little bit tight or whatever, got just slightly gone over his head. He'll learn from that. But, going forward, everything you want from a modern fullback, they've got to be able to bomb on and they've got to have good delivery to get the service into the front guys. And at the moment, those 2 are really, really firing.
Lee Pownall on Facebook says, what a good headache Brendan Rodgers is going to have when we've got a fully fit squad available to him. And Glenn Kimberley says, loving the Belgium connection and looking forward to seeing the Turkish connection kicking in as well. Yeah. Very optimistic for the new season. We will talk about that new signing Leicester made on Sunday in a little bit here on Extra Time. But let's get some reaction now from Brendan Rodgers, who was happy with the attacking threat shown by his side.
To speak, but I thought that our, especially going in behind, the mentality of the team was good. We kept attacking the game, looked really exciting going forward, and it was a very good victory.
Is that a sign of a good team when you do go behind, but you come back and win the game?
Yeah, especially against Burnley, because there's such a hard team to play against, to score 4 goals against, and like I say, they make it very, very difficult for you. You spend the game having to periods of possession, and long periods where at times you're having to pick up the second balls, defend your box. So we did that very, very well tonight, and like I said, we're a real threat going forward. So the creativity really pleased me, and I thought it was an exciting performance.
2 wins out of 2, obviously the perfect start, but can you see the confidence in the side, particularly in that second half? Yeah,
I think that we're still getting up to speed from a fitness perspective, but the players, you can see, keep going right to the very end. They showed great quality at the right moments, didn't get too disappointed going behind, and kept fighting right to the very end. So it was great. As I said, a really good start, with the wins, but not only that, finding our goals this early. So that's 7 goals in 2 games. So we're certainly developing in that side.
The quality of the goals as well must be very pleasing.
Yeah, different goal scorers, and that's what I've always said. We can't rely on just Jamie to always score. There has to be others contributing. So Harvey, great first finish. Tim getting forward. If it's not an own goal, I think Jamie scores. Dennis getting a great strike. The other fullback getting in there with JJ, good finish. So yeah, our intent is to attack the game, and they did that tonight.
That was something, Jerry, that we brought up on the show on Matchday Live after the game yesterday with Paul Dickoff. He spoke about the reliance on Jamie Vardy and how there wasn't that yesterday, and that's such a good sign, such a positive sign for Leicester City, and Brendan Rodgers there himself underlined that in his interview as well. Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive part of how Brendan sets the team up. Jamie Vardy plays effectively up front on his own. Yes, he gets the support from both the wide players and Dennis Pratt, predominantly. But you can't rely on him. He's asking 6-7 players at any one time to be in that final third, attacking and putting pressure on the opposition goal. So if that's the case, as it was last night, then you're expecting as a manager to get those people into goal-scoring opportunities and hopefully, convert those opportunities into goals. And last night, that's exactly what we're seeing. So as much as James, Justin and Castagna will still probably rely on their defensive strengths first and foremost, it's all about the transition. When they win the ball and convert defence in the attack, and then they have to move quickly up the pitch and get alongside the guys that are attacking. And that's exactly what we're seeing last night. And you have to be fit to do that. And yet again, like we've seen last week, Burnley, in the last 10 or 15 minutes, were out on their feet. Leicester were just far too fit, far too quick, far too clever for them. I think that's the hallmark of any good side, Tony, isn't it? Being able to have goals from everywhere and not being reliant on just one player.
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be a one-trick pony. You don't want to... Yes, of course, you want the focal point of Jamie and his wonderful talent and abilities to score goals. You want that in your team. Every team would want a Jamie Vardy. But you can't just rely on Jamie to score every week. It's impossible. You especially in the Premier League where it's so competitive, you can't rely on him to just bang goals in every single week. And Jamie might be having an off day. He might not be involved in the game, which was more the case, I felt, yesterday. It was more about him. Just for whatever reason, he wasn't involved in the game. He had very, very few chances, but the chances were falling to other players. And when they do, you've got to have players with the ability to take those chances. And, to have 4 different goal scorers, the manager will take great comfort from that. He'll be pointing out, he'll be saying, look, you can't rely on Jamie just to score the goals. You do need goals from other areas. It's really, really important. And, to have scored 7 goals in the first couple of games, to be top of the league as well, it's a great achievement by all the players. And, it's going to be a tough season. There's European football to come. There's Carabao Cup football to come in midweek. There's a lot of games. And all these squad players are going to be a huge part of what Brendan's trying to do. So, yes, the goals have got to come from different areas. And also, Jamie might get injured as well. If he does get injured, you've got Iheanacho who's got to step up to the plate. And that's how it works in football. So, he'll be really pleased with those goals coming from other areas.
Yep, one of those goal scorers last night was Harvey Barnes. He was pleased to make a positive start in the Premier League.
Yeah, we're very pleased with that. Spoke before the game, so we haven't won back-to-back games in a very long time, so we knew it was important today to go out there. Obviously wanted to put on a good performance, but the main thing was getting the 3 points, which we did.
And a sign of a good team that you can go a goal behind but still come back and get the victory.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously disappointing to go a goal behind, but I think we reacted very well, and I think we got goals at good times in the game.
An important goal for you. You got the equaliser. Talk us through it.
Yeah, no, obviously very pleased to get off the mark for the season. I actually ended up on the right-hand side, so it's a bit different. But when you're in the box, it's just trying to find a bit of space, and then, when you finish, just find that little bit of composure, and obviously thankfully it went in.
Leicester looked a threat every time they went forward. Must be exciting for you to be involved in that and in the side.
It is, yeah. We work on it in training a lot, working together, getting them relationships. So for us, putting it into practice in the game and getting the goals that we are at the minute, it's very pleasing for all of us, and it's great to play in.
Looks as though plenty more goals will be on the way as well with that link-up play that was forming in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, every time we go forward, we look like we're going to either create or score a goal. So long may that continue for us. 2
wins out of 2, team that's full of confidence in the changing room.
Yeah, definitely. I think back end of last season we knew we weren't quite up to scratch, so getting a good start was very important. So obviously done that. We've got a tough game coming up at the weekend. Obviously got the cup game midweek, but we're very confident going into them, and hopefully we can keep this form going.
Harvey Barnes there speaking to John Dunn. Tony, it's interesting that in the group, in the dressing room, they spoke about the fact that they had gone so long since they'd won back-to-back Premier League games. Just looking now, it wasn't until New Year's Day, beating Newcastle away, having beaten West Ham away a couple of days before. It wasn't since then that Leicester had won back-to-back Premier League games. So that is a long time, but they got there and they worked so hard, didn't they, last night to do that? And how much of a confidence boost do you think that will have given the group?
A massive confidence boost, Dan. And, I think sometimes supporters think that players either don't care or they don't realise the situation or don't think about it or don't talk about it, which, in my experience is far from the truth. When everything's going well like it was before Christmas, you don't need to talk about things because everything's natural, individually and as a team. And as we know, they had a wonderful run of games. But, since the Christmas New Year fixtures, they've not been consistent, Leicester. You can dress it up however you want, blame with whoever you want and however you want it, but they've not been consistent enough. And players know that. If you can't put 2 Premier League wins together, you can't be expecting to keep that Champions League place, which, as we know, they just missed out on, to great frustration. But, you have to put things like that right. When individually something ain't going, I mean, Jamie Vardy, for example, had gone so many games and he hadn't scored, and everyone was going on about his 100th goal. Then he gets it, and then you move on again. And the same with the players. You talk about it in the dressing room. Come on, lads. Why haven't we won 2 games on the trot? We're a good enough team to do that. So, they would have been really pleased as a group of individuals, as a team, to achieve that back-to-back wins. And it's very difficult. Tags will tell you as well, when we played it, Martin O'Neill used to say, that's a fantastic performance the other day, lads. It's so hard to get Premier League points, whether it's a draw or whether it's a win. And to get back-to-back wins, unless you're one of the top 2 teams who win sort of pretty much every week, if you're one of the clubs that are chasing those European places, it's very, very hard to get back-to-back wins. So great credit to the lads, and it was an outstanding team performance. And Harvey Barnes, for me, just gets better and better and better. I'll keep talking about that magic word, consistency. He is consistent at the moment. Everything he's doing, he's consistent with. There's an end product. He works for the team. And what I like about it, I love players that when they get on the ball, you don't know what they're going to do. They're going to take a player on. They're going to try and beat a player. Once they beat one player, they try and beat another player, and then they release the ball or then cross the ball at the right time. At the moment, his decision making is very, very good, and he's got to be pushing to get into that England squad and be a part of it. That's how good he's been.
Yeah, how good has he been in these opening 2 games?
Well, again, all the talk about last season was Harvey Barnes breaking into the team. And then we've seen, really great performances, and then performances that might have dipped slightly. And I don't mean dip because of his willingness to work hard. It was all about his final ball, or his decision-making in the key areas, taking the extra touch. We haven't seen that. What we have seen is 2 really consistent, exciting performances that have caused opposition defences real problems in trying to deal with, 1, his pace, and 2, what he does when he has the ball at his feet. And that's all he can keep doing, is putting those performances in, week out. And if he does so, then, he's the new kid on the block as far as England is concerned in my eyes. And everyone keeps going on about these other guys that are in the side at the minute for England, like the Sanchos and who else in the Mason Mounts and that. But for me, Harvey Barnes, in 2 or 3 months' time, if he keeps going the way he is, then Gareth Southgate cannot, and I mean cannot, look past him, because he frightens the life out of people. There is no shadow of a doubt.
I think in a way, Tony, because all you're saying all Harvey needs to do is just get that end product right and be more consistent with it. Actually, that's paying him a compliment in a way, because it's saying that all other facets to his game, his dribbling, his strength, his taking players on, is there. It's at the level that it needs to be. All he needs to do to really go on and break into that England squad and be in the top echelons of players in the Premier League is just sort that end product out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the attributes were there, and all the things you needed to be a starter in Leicester's team. All those bits and pieces were there. The one thing that slightly frustrated me, and listen, a lot of it might have been to the sort of the drop in confidence in the team together. In that period from January to finishing off the season with the lockdown period was just that final ball from him, really. And that's the challenge for the game. It's the same for defenders. It's the same for goalkeepers. It's the same for centre forwards and same for midfield players. Consistency is the hardest thing to do in football. We can all go out there and have one game where you get hat-trick, and then if you're hopeless the following week, then you're going to be left out of the team. Yes, you want to get a hat-trick every week, but you've got to get that consistency. That's why Jamie Vardy's in the team. He's consistent every week. Kasper Schmeichel, he's in the team because he's consistent. Johnny Evans, Soyuncu, and others, and Ndidi, players like that, consistent week in, week out. You know what you're going to get. But the difference with Harvey, he is a wide player, and with a wide player, it makes it difficult because you just never know what side of the pitch the ball's going to go down. And if it doesn't come down your side, you go chasing and looking for the ball, and sometimes you're then out of position when they do get the ball. So it can be difficult for wide players. But he's this season, and it's only 2 games. I don't want to get too carried away, but I honestly think that he's brought something different to his game. He's on a different level at the moment, and his decision-making has been really, really good. And as I said, I emphasise that point that in the England squad, we've got plenty of players who can pass the ball 10 yards, give it and get it back, give it and get it back, those type of players. What we haven't got too much of is the players that when they get the ball, they've got raw pace and they can beat defenders. And that's what he brings to the table. And if you're adding the goals, which he's adding, and if you're adding that final cross or that final pass, which he's been doing, you've got a hell of a player on your hands.
Yeah, very exciting to see what Harvey Barnes can do for the rest of the season. Now will be a good time to start our extra time teaser. Tony Cotty was here last week, so he knows what this entails. For those of you that are listening that are new to it, basically there's a couple of pots. So there's 3 questions each for you throughout the evening. Hit me with it. We'll do one now and then 2 later on. So there's a pot 1 and a pot 2. Jerry, because you're new to it, you can pick if you want the pot 1 or the pot 2.
I'll go for pot 2.
Pot 2. Right, Jerry.
Go for pot 1 then, Dan.
You can have pot 1, Tony. That's fine. So Jerry is pot 2. And your first question is, what team did Dennis Pratt's only other Premier League goal come against? So he got his second Premier League goal last night. Who did his first come against?
I was going to say Liverpool, but it wasn't them.
And if Jerry gets this wrong, Tony has a chance to steal the point.
I think you're safe, Tags, if it's any consolation. I don't think I'm going to get it.
No. Crystal Palace.
Might as well have a guess then, Tony.
Yeah, not confident in any shape or form. I'm going to say Newcastle.
No, it's Southampton in the game here at King Power Stadium. Southampton ended up winning the game, but Dennis Pratt did give the Foxes the lead. Tony, your question 1. Who won the Man of the Match poll on Leicester City's Twitter account as voted for by the fans yesterday?
Man of the Match. Wow. I've got to go for Castagna. Got to go for him.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Tony.
There was a few defenders. I had to go for him.
Yeah, you had a very good week last week with 5 points, and you've started off this week well with 1 point as well. We'll come back to those at the end of the show.
So Castagna beat Harvey Barnes in the end.
Yeah, we can take a look at the poll now. So this was the poll that went out, so quite comfortably in the end. Timothy Castagna getting 51%.
So my man of the match wasn't even in the running, which was Dennis Pratt.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding as well, Tags, and Harvey Barnes as well.
Yeah, well, there was touch and go between who was giving it to, but I just thought Dennis Pratt seems like he's got a new lease of life, Tony, in that. So that's why I give it to him. I thought he was excellent at West Brom, and then last night he scores that Thunder goal, and I just thought his game management was excellent.
I'm surprised Jamie's in that four. You know, like I'm a huge fan, but I just didn't. I thought it was a quiet game for him in general. So what do we know, Tags?
Exactly. I was going to say that.
There's a lot of love coming in on social media for the Belgium trio of Castagna, of Tielemans, and of Pratt. All three of them, obviously, yesterday, Jerry, had very good games. I think when you gave your man of the match, you whittled it down to a nationality, didn't you? You said it's one of the Belgian lads.
I could have given it to Castagna. I thought Yuri Tielemans was excellent, and that pass alone deserved the man of the match that he gave for the second goal, for the own goal. Was it the own goal?
Brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah.
Unbelievable pass. World class. Yeah. That was world class, that pass. I'm not saying Yuri's world class, but that pass was a world class pass, without a shadow of a doubt. And that alone deserved man of the match. Harvey, fantastic. Castagna, fantastic. Tielemans, fantastic. Dennis Pratt just nicked it at the end because of his goal and the way he's just slotted into that role. I think he's been fantastic.
How good was that pass, Tony Cottee, from Yuri Tielemans? Firstly, to have the vision, and then obviously the execution to pull it off in the way that he did.
The pass was so precise, though, wasn't it? It was so near to the defenders, and yet it was the only place that he could actually put it to get the ball through. And that it was an outstanding pass, and I think
that's a Kevin De Bruyne pass. That TC,
absolutely.
That's the sort of pass you see Kevin De Bruyne pull off. Obviously, in a bit more regular, but that is the standard. That's how high standard that pass was.
Yeah, it was. It was a beautiful pass, and it created a goal. And I think Brendan said Jamie probably would have tapped it in anyway. You know, so it was a great move and that. But just touching on the three Belgian players and that, I think it's probably worth pointing out, because we're just talking about Castagna, and I'm talking about players settling in and that. But when you've got two teammates already at the football club, I mean, firstly, they're going to encourage you to come to the club anyway, and secondly, when you do get to the club, you've got guys that you're familiar with and can help you to settle in. So perhaps in a way, it's probably no surprise that he's settled in so quickly, because he's got his two compatriots and he's surrounded by excellent footballers.
And maybe he's just not had time, because he turned up on a Friday, trained on a Saturday, played on a Sunday, and then it's been, obviously back to the day job ever since.
That was my type of week, wasn't it? Turning up on a Friday.
Yeah, but you turned up though, buddy, didn't you? You turned up in that 6-yard box.
Right, let's move away from the Belgian lads. Let's speak about one of the English lads. James Justin here, speaking about the importance of the attacking fullbacks in this team.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that the gaffer likes to do, get us fullbacks bombing on, and Timothy showed on Sunday that he can do it too, and it's always nice to pop up with a goal here and there.
You've talked about your versatility, and you've settled in life on that left-back position so far this season. Yeah,
it's been a nice one for me to obviously get a couple of games. Hopefully I can keep going and get that consistency going and nail down that spot.
And 2 wins out of 2 just breeds confidence ahead of the rest of the games in the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a tough fixture coming up midweek against Arsenal, and then after that we've got back to the league, so we're going to have to recover well and try and get the win.
Well, Tony, you were questioning that poll, and you said you were surprised Jamie Vardy was in there. That's because we put up the wrong one. We put up the poll from the West Brom game, so we can now put up the poll from the game yesterday with Burnley. So it has those players in there
so
that
Dennis
you would
Pratt
expect
is in it
to be in there. Timothy Castagna, though, still came out on top with 39% of the vote. We knew it was a lot closer than that. Harvey Barnes had 37%. Dennis Pratt there with 17%, and obviously the others.
It was killing me and Tags here. I'm so pleased you put up the right poll there. God, dear, you're making us look like fools here, I think.
Yeah, there you go. At least
I think it's someone next door getting their own back, because I gave him a bit of a tanning earlier on, TC, about misspelling my quote.
Well, Mohammed on Facebook says Justin is improving this season. I think that's a fair point, Jerry, isn't it? We saw a lot of improvement from him when he came in the team last year. Obviously, then when Ricardo got injured, we saw a lot of football during Project Restart, and he's really hit the ground running at a different position at left back.
Yeah, I think with James, I think he played left back predominantly for Luton, didn't he? And he's come in, he's been given an opportunity, and he has to take it if he's going to stay in the team, because you've got another borderline world-class fullback, hopefully not too far away. And so it's like you say, it's a great headache for Brendan Rodgers. So all James can do is seize the opportunity that he's been given, and at the minute he's doing that. I think he's been comfortable. in that left back position. Yes, he got done for the first goal, and he's going to have to learn, but I'm sure he will learn that. That's just a positional thing. When the ball gets played back to Taylor, the fullback, he has to readjust his position as the ball's being played back. So he needs to know what Chris Wood's doing. He may not be able to compete with him in the air, but if his body position is in the right area, he can nudge him off. He can use just his body by putting Chris Wood off, maybe drawing a foul from Chris Wood, who obviously likes to get physical. And unfortunately, he was just ball watching. But that's just something you can learn. As and when the ball moves from one player to another, it's all about moving your body position. But other than that, going forward, getting the goal, exactly what Brendan is looking for in the fullbacks. He's got great energy, great pace. His fitness levels are, right at the top of where they need to be. So every aspect of his game is improving all the time.
We've got absolutely loads to get through still on Extra Time here on LCFC Radio this evening. We'll look ahead to the development squad there in action this evening on LCFC TV away at Everton. We'll talk about that. Obviously, the first team are back in action on Wednesday. They start their Carabao Cup campaign. And we'll also speak about the arrival of Cengiz Under from Roma.
You're listening to Extra Time on LCFC Radio.
But before we do all of that, we'll go to our social section next. So a new part of Extra Time is where we take a look at the best of social media over the weekend following the game that was played. We can take a look at some of the players and what they tweeted after the win yesterday evening. James Justin said, first Premier League goal and a win. He's obviously a very happy man there, James Justin. And then we go to Papi Mendy, new victory yesterday, new week of work now. Obviously, he's focused and ready to go again for the game on Wednesday. We go to our Belgian trio now. Dennis Pratt, 6 out of 6. Happy with the team performance and with my first goal of the season. How good was he? I mean, we've spoken about him already, Jerry, but in that role and I guess the James Maddison role, if you like, because obviously with Maddison being injured, Dennis Pratt has played that role, but he's played it really, really well.
Oh, unbelievable. He plays a slightly different game to James in that role, but what he gives you is that pace of getting in behind. And we've seen it last week against West Brom where he stands the ball up. He gets a little through ball. He makes the run to the byline. He gets a little through ball. He stands it up to the back post for Timothy Castagna to head in. So that's a slightly different adjustment that, say, James would have, because he's got that pace, the burst in behind. I'm not saying James hasn't got that, but he's more direct with his movements, where James likes to be creative in there. His work rate off the ball is phenomenal. And when he gets it, his passing and his recycling of the ball, let's call it, was excellent. And then to top it all off, he gets his goal, which is an absolute thunderbolt. So I just think, for someone who's come into the team, never played there before, I've not seen him play there in that position before, to come in and know the role so well, and then to bring that work rate and to bring that creativity and the finishing with a goal into it, I think so, you've got to just, doff your cap to the lad.
He seems to be such a versatile player, doesn't he, Tony? He can play in a lot of those positions, really, any of the positions in midfield, and he's shown he's excelling at the moment in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the shirt. Tag's just mentioned it about James Justin. When you've got that shirt, you're in pole position, Danny. You've got the shirt on your back, and you can't ask for anything more than that than to be given the opportunity. Same applies to James Justin as it does to Dennis Pratt. You for various reasons, it can be injury, it can be suspension, it can be loss of form, it can be many, many reasons in football. But you get given that shirt. When you get given that shirt, you've got to perform. And to be fair to both the lads, they're holding the shirts. And it's, as long as they continue to do what they're doing and be as consistent as they've been doing, they will keep hold of the shirt. I like Dennis Pratt anyway. I was singing his praises last week, as you well know. I think he gives the team something different. And I think he's a player that I would like to stay in the team. We all know that James Maddison's going to be in that team. He's a wonderful player who's coming back from injury, and at some stage or other, he will get back into that team. But I think we've got to find a place for Dennis Pratt as things are at the moment. I like his runs from midfield. I like his quality. His finish was unbelievable in terms of the pace on it and the precision. He's a good player. The one player for me who might be in a little bit of trouble is Jose Perez, who we've seen very little of, I think, this year. He's been a part of it, but he's been very much on the periphery. Whether Dennis Pratt can sort of play out there, I don't know. But for me, at the moment, Dennis Pratt deserves to be in the team.
How good was the strike from Dennis Pratt? Because he used, and he referenced in his interview after the game, he said he used the run of Timothy Castagne on his right-hand side.
As a dummy run. Yeah, absolutely. And, if you look at it again, he sort of feints to play Castagne in, and then he drags it inside. Now, there is question marks over the Burnley defending, because as soon as you take one touch for that feint pass, then two to get out of your feet, someone has to come out and close that ball down. I don't care who it is, if you're a defender. You have to get out, because that is 2-3 seconds that Dennis Pratt has taken to manoeuvre the ball into a position where he's going to shoot. And that is 2 seconds too long to make your mind up whether you're coming out or not. But after that,
unstoppable.
It's unstoppable. And let's face it, you're talking about, it's not any old keeper. You're talking about one of the best keepers in the Premier League last season. One of the most consistent keepers in the Premier League last season.
Well, I think he was up there for the Golden Glove till the last week.
I think he came second, didn't he, to Edison from Man City. So, again, and we've just seen the great save earlier on from Harvey Barnes, where he gets a fingertip, that low one in the far corner. So it just shows you the calibre of keeper that this guy is. He was nowhere near that, Pope.
Well, do you know what, Tags? I disagree. I think he was near it, but because it was so much pace and swerve on it,
no chance.
I'm being flippant, obviously, but it was one of those shots where it goes in and you think, wow, the keeper must be at fault there. I know he's struck the ball fantastically well, but when you first see it, you think, wow, great strike, but he's outside the box. Could the keeper have done any better? And it's not until you see there was a wonderful camera angle behind the goal. I don't know whether you saw it, Tags.
Yeah, I did.
The camera was actually in the back of the net, and he's done a technique that we don't see too much of nowadays, where he's hit it. I think Reece James got one at Brighton as well, where they cut across the ball and the ball goes away from the goalkeeper.
But with pace.
Hit with pace. It's fantastic technique. And it's because there's that little bit of swerve on it that takes away from the keeper. And, he didn't even have time to dive. And that's my point. The ball was almost past him before he could even dive. That was how much pace was on the ball. I'd love to know what the miles per hour it was. It was probably getting on for 70 mile an hour. It was an absolute, blockbuster of a shot. But the technique that he showed was incredible. It was a fantastic goal.
We've still got plenty to get through here on Extra Time. We haven't spoken about the Arsenal game on Wednesday yet. The development squad, as I said, are in action as well. We'll talk about that and the arrival of Shen Gizunder next here on LCFC Radio.
All the games, all the goals and all the big moments. You're listening to LCFC Radio.
Well, Arsenal then, Jerry, up next. The Carabao Cup campaign starts on Wednesday. This is where the games now start coming thick and fast, don't they? Yeah. How do you think Leicester and Arsenal, to an extent, will approach that game on Wednesday?
It'll be interesting to see how many changes. There's going to be changes from both sides. There's no doubt about that. Leicester play Manchester City on Sunday away, which is a mammoth game, let's face it. I don't know who Arsenal play at the weekend, but, Arsenal have started the season fantastically well under Arteta. They mean business, but what I will say is that it's a game I'm really looking forward to, and whatever team Arsenal and Leicester put out is going to be a ding dong. It always is against Arsenal. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it, but there will be changes, I would have thought, because of what you've just said. The games are coming, big games as well. I'm not saying Leicester aren't going to prioritise the cup, because I'm sure they will. And even if they do make changes, they've got some quality players to come in. Some who have been sat on the bench for the last 2 games, some who are just coming back from injury. It'll be a good game no matter which 2 groups of players go onto the pitch.
Tags, I've just looked at Arsenal away to Liverpool the following Monday. So obviously the game's on
Monday.
They've got extra day
to prepare.
The argument on that, though, as well, is that Leicester are away at Man City on Sunday. So really, arguably, you couldn't play two more tough fixtures, could you, for either of them?
Yeah, but that one day could make a difference to maybe 2 or 3 players that Arteta might be thinking of not playing. Because it's on a Monday, you might think, well, especially a couple of the younger players like an Eddie Nketiah or something like that there.
Yeah.
I think
in general, the Carabao Cup is an experimental cup for most teams in the early rounds. We're only in round 3. I think the squad players from Leicester's point of view, I think there'll be 4 or 5 changes. Brendan will look to bring them in, but he'll look to keep the tried and trusted. Perhaps the goalkeeper might stay the same. Soyuncu might stay the same. Jamie Vardy normally plays. So I think there might be 4 or 5 changes. And I think Arsenal will do a similar thing as well. They've got a massive game on Monday. We've got a massive game on Sunday. So, both teams will be looking to progress in the cup competition.
Yeah.
But they have got other big games coming up and European football, etc., to come for the club. So, it'll be interesting to see what the 2 lineups are.
It's funny last season, TC, because they played Newcastle in the second round, I think it was.
Yeah.
The first game, and they only made 1 or 2 changes, I think, in that first game. It was away at Newcastle.
You're right.
And he only made 1 or 2 changes, if memory serves me right. Got through that game, played against, can't remember her name, we played Burton. Obviously made a lot of changes for those 2 games. Luton, that was it. Luton, then Burton. Made a lot of changes for them 2 games. But for the Premier League side, last season he didn't. Now, obviously, it's a bit different because of the congestion of the games and where we are in all our lives at the minute. So it would just be interesting to see, but I would expect he will make a few changes, more than 1 or 2.
And there is the added caveat as well, Tony, of the fact that Liverpool await for the winners of this tie in the next round of the League Cup. But I suppose you could look at the way that Liverpool and the teams that Liverpool have put out in this competition in recent years, and maybe it isn't obviously the same proposition as what it would be if you were playing them in the Premier League, of course.
No, exactly, Dan, and it's a competition that you can't really worry about things like that. Listen, we all look at the draw for a cup competition and that, but I think in the old days you go, oh wow, we've got to play Liverpool, but I don't think you can't really worry about it until that game comes round. And when that game does come round, as we saw with cup competitions last year, Liverpool were in so many cups, it was crazy, and they put weakened teams out in the FA Cup and I think the League Cup as well. So you could argue that Liverpool might be a good team to play if they've got other big games that they've got to prioritise. They've already said they've got to play Arsenal in the league next Monday, so I'm guessing the game probably would be a Thursday, because I think it's next week, isn't it? League Cup 4 if you get through. So there's so many games coming up, but until you get to an hour before kickoff, you can't sort of really gauge on what you feel is going to happen in a game. Once we get the 2 teams on Wednesday, you can look at it and say, well, 5 changes or 10 changes or no changes. You won't know until you get the teams.
Yeah, it's all pure speculation on our behalf, isn't it, really? But you don't know what is actually, unless Brendan comes out and says that he's going to make changes, then you can only speculate on how many and who.
And we are doing a little bit of a disservice as well to Lincoln, because they play Liverpool this week as well. So it could be Lincoln that awaits Leicester or Arsenal in the next round.
But seeing as you're a Liverpool fan, you're going to say Liverpool, aren't you?
Well, Jerry, we thought you wouldn't be bringing that one up this season, but here we are. Obviously, the cup competitions are a chance maybe for a change in the team, and also potentially a chance to see the new arrival at Leicester City. Cengiz Under arrived from Roma, initially on loan. Let's hear what Brendan Rodgers has to say about the new signing.
Yeah, he's going to bring more creativity to our game. He's very fast, he's dynamic, can beat people in the 1v1, got a lovely left foot. But also when he's in there in tight spaces, he can make a pass. And that'll be great for the other players in the forward areas. So yeah, he's a young player as well that's still got a lot of development. And I really look forward to working with him.
Yeah, interesting to hear what Brendan has to say there, Jerry, about Cengiz Under.
Absolutely. And, Brendan has a list, a tick list, let's call it, of the type of player he wants to bring in. And that sort of, if you're listening to Brendan and you didn't know Harvey Barnes, you could almost say it was a similar type player. He's quick, he's tricky, he wants to take players on, direct, and he can see a pass. Now, obviously, We know about Harvey. We don't know too much about this young man, but I would say he's the type of player that Brendan wants. Someone who has pace. He's obviously going to have to fit into the way Brendan works without the ball. Well, he did that in Rome. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely, he sounds like an exciting prospect for Leicester.
I think any fan, Tony, when they sign a new player that they maybe don't know too much about, they head straight for YouTube or whatever, see the show reels. But it seems that one thing that Under does a lot is cut in from that right-hand side onto his left foot and unleash really unstoppable strikes sometimes.
Yeah, well, listen, Dan, I've got to be honest, I don't know much about the player, and I have enough on my plate trying to look at English football without covering all the European football that goes on. But, I'm aware he's a winger. I've just heard Brendan's comments. And the one thing I keep saying, I keep using that word consistency. And in terms of Leicester's recruitment, consistency has been the word, because their recruitment has been astonishing over the last 2 or 3 years. It's been absolutely fantastic, and you've got to trust the guys that are making these decisions. Castagna's come in, hasn't he? I'm sure this guy Under will be a big part of the squad. There's lots and lots of games to play. Did I hear right down about him? Is he a friend of Soyuncu as well? Did I get that right? Is he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they played obviously together with Turkey, but then also when they were growing up as well, they played together.
Yeah. Well, then you come back to the Belgian connection that we just spoke about, where you've got someone already at the club, someone saying what a great club it is, come and play for us, come and be me mate, come on, we can go out and do this and do that, and so, in terms of settling in, that shouldn't be a problem for the lad. So he's going to get games because, the longer Leicester stay in the cup competitions, the better for everyone concerned. So I think it could be a really good signing, and listen, he's on trial, he's on loan for a year, and when you sign a deal where you're on loan for a year, you've got to perform. When you're given that opportunity, like I said, get in the team, show everyone what you're all about, and then you sign a permanent deal for next season.
Right, if you're listening in again on Twitter and Facebook, you can get involved with this next part of the show. It's called Who's the Fox? We're going to put a picture up of a Leicester player either playing or celebrating, but he's silhouetted out and you've got to guess who it is. The first one that we've done is extremely easy to get everyone warmed up for what this will be throughout the next season. So who's the Fox? So get involved on social media.
All right, it's not for me.
Don't have a guess, Jerry.
Right, okay.
Even you could get that one.
Yeah,
I think.
I've got it.
So do get your answers in on Twitter and Facebook. It's a nice little segue, which will give you a clue into the next part, because it's the development squad preview. Does that confirm who you think it now is? No. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, the development squad are in action tonight. They're playing away at Everton. They've won their opening 2 games, one against Hull in the leasing.com trophy, and then against Manchester United last Monday. The game is available again to watch live and for free following us on LCFC TV, Jerry. And we saw them do so well last season. Obviously, that season was curtailed due to COVID, and they've seemed to have hit the ground running and started the way that they ended last season.
Yeah, I think a bit of unfinished business for the under-23s, because their season was curtailed and, they were doing so well. So they've got an opportunity now to, try and replicate, the heights of last season. And, I'm sure with Steve Bigelhole at the helm, he won't be sitting on and resting on his laurels. He'll be making sure that the players, and we've, like you say, we've already seen it against Manchester United, a great performance and a great result, a couple of good goals. Really hopeful that the under-23s and waiting to see who the next young gun coming out of that crappy under-23s is going to come up to the first team, because I'm sure it's not going to be far.
And a lot of those players have impressed as well. We've seen, obviously, the likes of George Hurst on the score sheet already, Ali Regba as well. He looks frighteningly good at times, and Mitchell Clark from left-back scoring a brilliant goal against Manchester United last week as well.
Absolutely, and the young lads know that they'll be given an opportunity if they perform, and they perform it to a consistent level. And Brendan likes working with younger players. So it's up to them young lads, and as I say, I'm sure that will be the message, that's coming across to them. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're seeing them doing so well, is because, as a young player and you're playing in an under-23 league, that's great. But what you want to do is be able to make that next step. Well, it's go out and loan, or well, it's go into your parent first team squad. And if you're being told by the manager of Leicester City Football Club that there's a pathway, there's an opportunity for you to progress to the first team if you're consistent And if you prove to me that, you're buying into the way I do things, then that is music to young players' ears, because they've got something to grab onto and run with.
Right, I'll run you through the team then. Jacob Stolarczyk is the goalkeeper. Vontae Daly-Campbell, Darnell Johnson, Sam Hughes and Mitchell Clark make up the back four. Then you've got Hume, Shade, Leshabella, Ndukwu and Wright, all in midfield, in behind Ali Regbit. As I said, you can watch that game following us immediately on LCFC TV. We're about 10 minutes away now from the end of extra time here on LCFC Radio. We'll take a look at what happened elsewhere in the Premier League at the weekend. I mean, there's so many goals, so many great games that we can choose from. Tony, I'll let you have a little pick. Which game caught your eye, do you think, the most at the weekend?
Wow, where do you start then? I think we've got a couple of games on tonight, and we're looking at possibly a record goals total in the Premier League, aren't we, for a single round of matches? So, without any bias, I've got to say I'm pleased for Everton, another one of my old clubs, and they've started the season really well. They've made some good signings, and I think that was a really sort of powerful result, wasn't it? Big message to send out to beat West Brom 5-2. A couple of goals that perhaps they could have done without conceding. But I'm excited about Everton this year. I think that I'm not saying they're going to be in the top four, because I don't think you're going to get too carried away. But I think they're in for a good season, Everton. Yeah,
there was a few 5-2s. There was a 4-3, a 3-1. We saw a 4-2 last night. And following that, as Tony said, there's a game this evening. It's currently 0-0. So after all that talking up, it's 0-0 in that one. Very quickly, Jerry, do you think there's a reason why we are seeing so many goals? Because we didn't during Project Restart and lockdown, did we? But suddenly at the beginning of this season, we've seen quite
a lot of teams have improved as well. I think, you've got the teams coming up. Leeds look a good team, and they've banged in 4 against obviously one of the other promoted teams. But I think, Tony mentions Everton. They've gone out and they've spent money on good players. They've brought in good players, and you're seeing them improve. And maybe one or two of the big clubs that are starting the season a little bit later are struggling a little bit with the fitness. You look at Crystal Palace going to Man U, turning them over. So I don't know the answers, but there's probably a variation of answers why we're seeing so many goals. But definitely it seems like the likes of Everton and one or two others are starting to improve their team, spend a bit of money on quality players.
I think the emphasis is on attacking as well, Tags. I think the old George Graham days of working with a back four for 4 hours in training, and I don't think they do that anymore. I think it's all about getting the ball forward, full-backs attacking, and as a result of that, we're seeing some wonderful goals and matches and that, but I think the art of defending is almost a dying art at the moment.
I would tend to they're on the side of agreement there, Tony, to be honest. But yeah, there is that. That is the modern game. It's attacking football. That's what the owners want to see. You've got these billionaire owners that come in, buy football clubs. They want to see attacking football. So they bring the managers in, they back the managers. The managers are going out and bringing in the players that the owners want to see, and the fans, of course, want to see, even though they're not at the grounds. So it's a combination of a lot of things. But definitely the football's exciting.
Right, before we do our final extra time teasers of the evening, let's get the answer to the Who's the Fox graphic that we put up on the screen. Well done to Carl Axon on Facebook. Well done to Stefan Bates on Facebook. Well done to Stephen James on Facebook, and Pete Brown as well, you all guessed correctly. It is Hamza Chowdhury. There he is. Jerry Taggart, you had that one, didn't you?
No.
The hair surely gave that one away. Hamza Chowdhury. As the first answer to that one. Right, our final extra time teasers of the evening then. Tony, you can go first for question 2. You were pot 2, you were pot 1 rather. Yeah. Which Manchester United defender gave away the penalty that led to Zaha eventually scoring from the spot in the game at Manchester United on Saturday?
Lindelof.
Correct. Well done. Jerry, your question 2 is who scored twice for Brighton in the opening 7 minutes away at Newcastle yesterday?
Mopai.
Well done, Tags.
You're pleased you watched Match of the Day now, aren't you?
At least I'm on the scoreboard. That's what I'm happy about.
Well done, Jerry. Tony, James Justin scored his first Premier League goal last night, but who did his first Leicester goal come against?
I'm going to kick myself when you tell me the answer, Dan.
There's a chance for Jerry to steal it if Tony doesn't get it.
Oh, I'm stealing it. If he don't get it, TC, I know this one.
I'll take a wild punt. It was against his old club, Luton.
Well done, Tony.
Where have you pulled that one from?
Well, because it just sort of made sense, Tags. I didn't trying to think, because he didn't play that many Premier League games, and I tried to think of some League Cup games we played, and then it just it come to.
Well done.
I apologise.
Well done.
That right.
Well done. 3 from
Well
3
done,
for Tony. That's 8 from the first 2 weeks that you've done already, Tony. So you're on fire in the extra time teasers. The final one then of the evening, Jerry, relates to the side that we're playing on Wednesday and Arsenal. So in that 3-3 back in 1997, Walshy famously scored the winner. Who laid on the header for him at the back
Elliot.
post?
Marshall.
Oh.
Chance to steal for Tony.
Who laid on? I played in the game as well. I was on the pitch. Heskey.
No, it was Spencer Pryor.
Spencer Pryor,
yeah.
The Clodhopper.
Well done to those of you on social media for getting involved with those answers there. Very quickly, Jerry, because we're right towards the end of the show, will the development squad make it 3 wins from 3 this evening when they play Everton?
Oh, I'm gonna. Yes.
I
was going to go for a score draw, but then. But yeah, they're going to go all the way.
Yeah, hopefully they'll make it 3 from 3. Tony, no disasters this evening, so thank you very much for joining us again.
Cheers, Tone. Great to talk in there.
Brilliant. Yep, follow us immediately, lcfc.com. Look out there because the development squad are playing against Everton. Don't forget, on Wednesday we'll be back for Matchday Live in the LCFC TV studio as the Foxes kick off their Carabao Cup campaign. Thank you very much for everyone that listened and followed along this evening for Extra Time.